Hey folks, welcome back to another episode of Coffee, Tea, and Crime. Today's episode's going to be Bringer of Death. Alright, the fellow we're going to be talking about today, it would be bad enough if he was just a serial killer. But he was a bank robber and a burglar and an arson. He was a kidnapper and he was a sex offender. So he pretty well ran the gambit of all the evil deeds you could do that involve violence. Now we know he confessed to several murders, and he's suspected of committing untold number of other murders. Now his reign of terror lasted from, some resource material says 2001 to 2012, but if you look at some of the cases where you're pretty sure that he was involved, then it's all the way back to 1996. Now he'd been trained by the United States Army. Now we're going to start in 1996. A little girl named Julie Harris, and she had prosthetic legs. Now she was outside her house waiting to catch a ride to go to church. Now this was in Colville, Washington, state of Washington. Now later, her prosthetic feet and her body would be found in a river near the little town. Now in June of 97, in this same little town, a trailer catches on fire. They put the fire out. They find the body of Marlene Emerson. And it appears that she was a victim of a homicide prior to the trailer being set on fire. Now, even more disturbing is the fact that her 12-year-old daughter, Cassandra Emerson, is missing. Now, her remains would be found 1 year later, about 10-15 miles from where she had lived. Now, our suspect, he would later admit to committing an arson on a trailer in Colville, but he wouldn't admit to any of the two murders. In fact, the three murders as a whole. Now, I'm just going to key in on a few of these cases. Episode would be too long if I covered everything that he possibly did. So now we're going to jump to 2007 down in Boca Raton, Florida. Lady named Randy Gorenberg. She's at the Boca Town Center Mall. Now this is March of 2007. Now somebody snatched her up from that shopping mall. No, they found her body about an hour later. She'd been shot twice. Now in December of that same year, Nancy Bacchetti and her daughter, who was 7 years old, they were found in her vehicle at that shopping mall. They'd been shot to death. Now the only conflict with trying to put these two crimes on our suspect is, according to the FBI, who did this detailed travel itinerary of the suspect, according to their material, when those homicides are occurring down in Florida, he's in Alaska, traveled to California. This basic itinerary shows him in everywhere but the East Coast. Too far away, I would think, for him to have driven down there and committed those crimes. Now, something that he did that was different from other serial killers, I guess, is he had what he called kill kits or kill catches. He would get a container and he would put generally a pistol, a silencer, duct tape, etc., all the items he would need to commit a homicide. And he would put them in this plastic container and he would bury them. Now, he would bury them in different parts of the country. And these locations were always very far away from where he lived, because at the time of most of this, he's living in Alaska. So when he was ready to do a killing, he would decide which part of the country he would go where he already had a kill kit, dig up his kill kit and go do his business. Now, April 2009, strong possibility that he killed a prostitute in Hackensack, New Jersey. Now, they never found her body of this woman, Deborah Feldman, but they're thinking that he buried her somewhere around Tupper Lake, New York. That's their best guess. Now, in May of 2011, a little girl named Madison Scott, sometime in the morning around Hog's Back Lake, now that's in Vanderhoof, British Columbia, she'd been at a party at a campsite. Now, they would not find her remains for 12 years. They finally found her body in May of 2023. Now, this particular location in Canada, it's about a 30-hour drive from Anchorage, Alaska, where our suspect lived. Now, when he was asked about this particular murder, his only comment was that Canadians don't count. Now, this next case, which he actually confessed to June 8th, 2011, he admitted he killed Bill Currier and his wife Lorraine. Now, this homicide occurred in Essex, Vermont. Now, he broke into their house, tied them up, hauled them out to his vehicle, because what his general MO was, he'd fly into a town, rent him a car, and do his business in that rental car. So he took him to an abandoned farmhouse and he shot Mr. Currier. Then he sexually assaulted and strangled Miss Currier. Now, their bodies have never been found. Now, that particular kill kit that he used after the homicide, he had taken it and he'd moved it somewhere near Parrishville, New York. Now, that particular kill kit was recovered by authorities. Now, in terms of a time frame, the last confirmed victim of his was a young woman, Samantha Cohen. She lived in Anchorage, Alaska. Now, this particular case is odd because he actually killed someone in the same area he lived, and he never did that. Now, she worked at a little coffee shop, I guess you'd call it a shop, just a little building there in a shopping mall out by itself. Now, that's February of 2012. gets her at gunpoint, kidnaps her. Now he takes her debit card, he rapes her, and he eventually kills her pretty soon after he's kidnapped her. Now he kept her in a shed just outside his house, right there on his property. Now he had a live-in girlfriend and he had a child by this girl. So they're in the house and he's got a shed 30 feet from the house, and that's where her body's at. So now after he's killed her, within 24 hours, he's with his girlfriend and his child, and they go on a 2-week cruise. Well, he comes back and he decides, you know what, maybe I could get some money out of the family. So he sews her eyelids open, puts makeup on her, puts a newspaper in her hand to make it look like she's alive, and sends it to the family. And he told the family he wanted $30,000. Now what he wanted them to do was keep money in her bank account so he could withdraw it when he wanted it. Now the young lady's body, he dismembered it and dropped it in a lake just north of Anchorage. And her remains were later found by local police and I believe the FBI. Now they're pretty sure that in February of 2012, in the area of Mount Enterprise, Texas, he killed James Tidwell, who was an electrician. Now his pickup truck was found abandoned. Now the day after this homicide, a bank got robbed in Azale, Texas. They're pretty sure that our suspect did that. Now this demanding money from the family was eventually going to lead to his capture, because every time he goes and withdraws money, of course the authorities are able to track his movements. Now each time he gets the money, he's got his face covered. He's wearing a mask and a ball cap generally. And finally on one of those videos they're able to get the tag number off the car he's in. So he gets stopped by the Texas Highway Patrol in Lufkin, Texas, parking lot of the Cotton Patch Cafe. That's March 13th, 2012. Now in his vehicle they recover cash that's got dye on it, which authorities have figured, okay, that's from the dye pack from the bank robbery. They find the little girl's ATM card from Alaska and her cell phone. Now he gets extradited back to Alaska, and that's when the FBI spends their time taking statements from him. Now December 7th, 2012, he's at the Anchorage Correctional Complex, and I guess he got bored with life. He wrote a rambling letter, hand drew some pictures with his own blood, laid in his bed. He bled out because he had sliced his wrist with the razor blade he'd somehow or another gotten into the jail cell.